Welcome to Frank Buckley Interviews. Tonight, it's a conversation with the Foreign Minister of Japan, Taro Kono.
Frank Buckley Interviews starts now.
Japan's Taro Kono is the Foreign Minister of one of America's closest allies, working with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on issues like North Korea. During our conversation, we talk about that and about trade and tariffs and about Foreign Minister Kono's political ambitions.
I think if you become Prime Minister, you can implement what you have in your mind. So I think, being politician, my goal is to become the Prime Minister and try to implement what I've been looking forward to.
More on that and why Foreign Minister Taro Kono was in L.A. when we come back. Foreign Minister Kono, thank you for joining us on Frank Buckley Interviews. This is a great honor for us. It's
thank you.
First time we've had a foreign minister, so it's very special. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honor is mine.
I know LA is very special to you. You've told the story before, but you first came here when you were in 7th grade.
That's right. That's right.
What is it about LA that was that struck you then?
Well, LA is the first city out of Japan. I flew all the way from Tokyo to LA, and a friend of my father was living in Century City, and they took me their condo there, and it looked so different from Tokyo. It was so futuristic, and I always say, the bedroom I got had its own shower and bathroom, and I was so excited. So when I called home, I told my mother, hey, my bedroom has its own restroom and shower.
Well, welcome. We hope you have the same accommodation when you're here during your visit. You are here for the opening of Japan House. We are here in one of the exhibit spaces. You have many demands on your time as a foreign minister. You could be anywhere in the world right now. You chose to be here in LA for this opening. Why is Japan House so important to you, and what is it that you hope to showcase through Japan House?
Well, we only have 3 Japan houses on this planet. One is London, one is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this is the 3rd one. And this is important because we built a Japan House in the middle of Hollywood. We are trying to get more attention to Japanese culture, Japanese history, Japanese technology, and Hollywood attract a lot of people, very different kind of people, and we're just hoping that they would notice Japan House and just hop in. And we wanted to attract those who never been interested in Japan to realize it's interesting to see what's going on in Japan. So it is important. And also, I wanted to make sure that Foreign Minister of Japan visit LA, which has huge Japanese American community.
You mentioned the Japanese American community. It's something that I know firsthand is a passion for you. In 2006, as you know, I traveled to Japan with the Japanese American Leadership Delegation. That's when I first met you. And for people who don't know what that is, JALD is a collection of Japanese American leaders who are selected to go meet Japanese business leaders and government leaders like yourself. Some of us have had the opportunity to see you karaoke, which is really something that I feel like I'm very honored to have seen.
Thank you.
But at that meeting, I told you then that my mother told me that my family was indebted to your family. I learned through that program that my late grandfather had received a job in the government because of your late grandfather, and so when I met your father, Yohei Kono, who was at the time the Speaker of the House, it was a very emotional experience for me. And you've seen that many times because you've met all 18 delegations.
That's
I
right.
think. What does that mean to you? This idea of connecting Japanese Americans in the U.S. with Japanese in Japan.
Well, when I first came to LA when I was 13, Japanese American who are friends with my father, took care of me. So I knew there's a Japanese American community in California, but then I realized later on that Japanese American, those who are Nisei, were taught to be good American citizens. So not many of them been to Japan, not many Japanese Americans speak Japanese language, and not emotionally close to Japan as well. And I thought Japanese, when we talk about a bilateral relationship between US and Japan, Japanese American community would be a natural bridge between two countries. But we realize the Japanese American community is not as close to Japan as we hope to. So Foreign Ministry started out this program, Japanese American Leadership Delegation. We select Japanese American leaders in many community to come to Japan and hopefully get them reconnected to Japan. And I think this program had that effect. A lot of Japanese Americans who never been to Japan on this program realize they have deep roots in Japan, and they thought relationship between Japan and the US is important, and they're beginning to see the relationship Japanese American and Japan is important. And many of those who participated in this program become very active connecting Japan and the US, and late Senator Daniel Inoue set up US-Japan Council, and the council member is very active on both sides in Japan and the US, connecting two countries.
And for full disclosure to our viewers, I'm a member of that council, and I think it has been a very valuable experience in connecting on a people-to-people basis,
Yes.
Our two countries.
Right.
You also, obviously, as foreign minister, that's on the people-to-people level, but as foreign minister, you represent the country of Japan. And I wanted to ask you some questions at that level. How does the Japanese government feel about the latest developments with regard to North Korea? The talks have been called off for now.
Well, North Korea has violated Security Council resolution by developing nuclear weapons and developing missiles of many ranges. And I think only way for North Korea, or forcing North Korea to get rid of nuclear weapon and missile, is by putting pressure on them through economic sanctions based on the Security Council resolution. And I think international community believe that North Korea shouldn't go nuclear, because if we allow them to do so, will probably lead to the end of NPT regime, and every country would start having nuclear weapon. So I think President Trump took good leadership on putting pressure on North Korea, and international community is united behind the Security Council resolution. So Kim Jong-un had to come forward and meet with President Trump in Singapore. And we kind of thought it would be a good beginning towards the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula. But North Korea has done nothing except returning 55 remains of American soldiers. So I think what we need to do is keep international community united and keep us fully implementing Security Council resolution. Because of the meeting in Singapore between Kim Jong-un and President Trump, there is higher expectation within North Korea for economic development. And in order for Kim Jong-un to deliver something, I think he really come forward and get rid of nuclear weapons and missile and get the sanction lifted. But we know from our past experience, negotiation with North Korea is very difficult, time-consuming. And so we understand what Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is going through. We are encouraging him to be tough with North Korea, but have to be patient. And I think that's what he's been doing, and President Trump understands the situation.
One of the things that came out of Singapore and the direct talks was soon after we all learned that joint military exercises with South Korea were not going to happen. We're told, the reporting is that happened without consultation with Japan. Is that true? And if so, for our closest ally in Asia, Japan, to not consult on something so important, was that a difficult moment for you?
Well, but U.S. forces in Japan and the self-defense force will continue joint military exercise, so it doesn't really affect the relationship between Japan and the United States. And the President Trump and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense made very sure that it is a goodwill gesture towards North Korea. As long as North Korea comes to the negotiation table with goodwill, U.S. will hold a military exercise with South Korean government. That means once North Korea is not negotiating with goodwill, the President Trump made sure that U.S. will resume the joint military exercise. So we are hoping that North Korea will continue negotiation in goodwill.
Your Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was the first foreign leader to meet with President-elect Trump, and it appeared early on that they were going to have a very close relationship, and that would bode well for the continuing security arrangement between the U.S. and Japan. Since then, as you know, President Trump has issued tariffs on aluminum and steel, didn't include Japan on the list of exempted countries, went ahead with the meetings with Kim Jong-un, ended the joint military exercises with South Korea without prior consultation with Japan, and has placed Japan on a watch list of nations from the U.S. perspective conducting unfair currency practices. Does your Prime Minister and do the Japanese people in some way feel betrayed by President Trump after establishing this close relationship?
Well, this alliance, this security alliance between United States and Japan has lasted more than half a century. And in those 50-some years, we had a lot of trade talks. There's a lot of orange talks or trade talks on automobile, semiconductors. There's a lot of trade issues, but it never affected the alliance at all. And today it's similar thing. President Trump talked about trade issues, trade deficit, but we are very solidly united against North Korea, and we are very solid in terms of every aspect of the security alliance. So we're not really worried about it. We are trying to send a message to President Trump that if you put U.S. and Japan, yes, there is a trade deficit for United States. But if you consider Japan and the Japanese company in United States together, there's actually trade surplus for United States, because the Japanese company in United States like Toyota, Honda, Sony, Canon, all the other companies, they export out of United States to Europe and other countries. And their export is larger than the trade deficit of the United States between U.S. and Japan. So if you put Japan and the Japanese company in United States, we can say there's a trade surplus for United States. So only way to get rid of trade deficit for United States is not by putting tariff on any product coming from Japan, but try to increase Japanese investment into United States, which will create more jobs and more trade, more export. So that's what we are trying to tell President Trump.
I do wonder how someone in your position when we do have a president like ours who does change positions on various things on a fairly regular basis. Is it difficult for you to put your policies in place when you don't know where our president sits on any given day?
Well, I think there are many leaders in the country, in the government, in companies who change their mind, and I think we have to cope with that. So that's the given in the reality. And Mike Pompeo and I have been working pretty well.
Yeah. There is still this perception, true or not, that Japan is a difficult place for outsiders to break in to do business, that there is this feeling that it's difficult to get a yes or a no, that it's difficult to break in with products into the Japanese market. Are these old notions? Is it true? Or tell us what it's like today. If I have a small business or I manufacture something and I want to get into the Japanese market, how difficult will that be for me?
Well, it may not be easy because Japanese consumers are very, very much quality conscious. We expect good quality from any product. It doesn't really matter if the product is American made or Japanese made. The Japanese consumer wants something really good. So if your product is successful in Japanese market, that means your product is very good quality and you can bring it to any other market as well. After graduating from Georgetown, I worked for Fuji Xerox, which is a part of a Xerox corporation. And Xerox is an American company, but got a very large share in Japanese market. So I think if anyone who got the good quality product could break into Japanese market, you just have to put the mind into it.
Tell me what it has been like being foreign minister. You were a member of the Diet for many, many years. Your father, of course, was a foreign minister, so you had someone to turn to for guidance. But is it what you expected?
Well, yes, a lot of traveling. And, I became foreign minister August 3rd last year. And, we had a North Korean situation. So a lot of my time was consumed dealing with North Korea. But besides that, Middle East, Latin America, Africa, Russia, China, United States, it's wonderful to talk to foreign ministers from other countries. They are really interesting people. They have real good heart. And it's really nice to be interacting with them. So I enjoyed this job.
What about your future? There are people who have said for a long time that you are a future leader of your party and a future prime minister. Is that something you seek?
Yes. I think if you become prime minister, you can implement what you have in your mind. So I think, being a politician, my goal is to become the prime minister and try to implement what I've been looking forward to.
To that end, can you give me a vision for Japan in the world when Taro Kono becomes a prime minister? Well,
Japan has been losing population. We're losing about 500,000 every year because of the low birth rate. And in order to sustain economic activities or economic development, we have to do something about it. And I think Japan needs to open the door to others. So hopefully, Japan in 21st century will become more internationalistic and out of manufacturing to something new. So we need to really change the economic structure, and we need to change our mindset And it's not easy, but that's something we need to do. It's, we've done this at Meiji Restoration. We get rid of shogunate and we created a new modern government. And we lost the war, devastated, but we came back from those devastation. So this is going to be the third opening of Japan to new era, I hope.
Finally, just on the personal level, your father was so gracious to me when I met him, and it was such an emotional experience for me. He had suffered from a liver disease at one point, and you donated a portion of your liver to help save his life. How is his health, and how is he doing?
Oh, he's doing great. We have a medical checkup every year, especially on liver. Last year, we went to the hospital on the same day. We compared the numbers, the test data after the checkups. His liver was functioning better than mine. So I told him, give me the liver back. But he's doing fine, thank you.
Well, Foreign Minister Kono, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you for visiting Los Angeles. We hope you'll come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My thanks to Japan's Foreign Minister Taro Kono for making time to speak with us during his brief visit to LA. If you'd like to hear more of our conversation, check out the Frank Buckley Interviews podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for the feedback on social media. If you'd like to join the conversation, tag me at Frank Buckley TV on Twitter and Instagram, or drop a comment on the Frank Buckley Facebook page. If you'd like to share this TV show with friends around the world, check us out on YouTube. Just search for Frank Buckley Interviews. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.